So today we start with the local treatment. There are three heads of management of the burn. First is the treatment of shock, second is the general treatment, and third is the local treatment. Okay, so that treatment of shock and general treatment we already discussed in the previous lecture. So today we discuss the local treatment. Local treatment means the treatment of the that burn wound. Hmm. So with the treatment of when we talk about the local treatment, first start with the first aid. The first aid we discussed in previous lecture. Stop. Hmm? Stop means you just remove the. You have to strip the patient any hot cloth or any hot any metallic jewelry from the patient's T. Turn on the cool tap means you just start cooling that part. Third, organize your system means you inform that nearby hospital ambulance and organize the medical setup so you can safely uh, take your patient up to the hospital which has the proper burn facilities. Third, protect from the further damage. Okay, so for this you have to cover the patient so that further injury is prevented, can be prevented. So always remember the stop. So next come the management of the wound. What about the wound you get after the burn? So first method is the first step is to the treatment of shock. When the patient gets settled and once your patient is proper resuscitated, he has a normal vitals and the patient is having good urine output. Okay, means patient is now out of danger, then you start looking after that. Your whole attention should be diverted toward the caring of that wound, burn wound. So first of all, if you have facilities, the proper burn ward, you have shift your patient into the from ICU to the burn ward. The burn ward or the specialized designed ward where the direct air entry is prohibited so that the pathogens which are present in the air, so you can stop that pathogens to come in a direct contact with the patient because patient has lost so much skin, so patient has lost the most premium and first line of defense of our body, that skin. So now the patient is very much liable to have any kind of that infections, like fungus, bacteria, virus, any kind. That's why you have to keep safe that out of reach of these pathogens. You have to keep your patients. So these wards should be these wards are sterilized. Okay, and avoid direct air entry. So next thing, now you start cleaning the wound. First you start cleaning the wound with the antiseptic solutions only by the mechanical debridement only. Okay, and maybe the chemical debridement. Okay, whatever requirement. So you just debride all the dead and depitalized tissue from that burn site. And in the second degree there is the uh, always there is a blister, that is the characteristic feature of the second degree burn. So you have to puncture that blisters. Okay, and all that dead skin should be removed so that you are giving a good environment for that wound to start healing. Okay, and apply uh, that local antiseptics. These topical antiseptics or antimicrobials in the burn patient, that silver nitrate is the first and foremost very good agent which can be used. 0.5% silver nitrate solutions and the silver sulfadizine cream 1%, and other antimicrobial solutions like betadine or whatever you have available, you can use for the cleaning of that burn site. So silver nitrate should be first used, means when you have the burn patient, first you have to use silver nitrate when the burn wound is not in any infections, means when the wound is so you can prevent that wound get infected, because once the wound is infected then it's get complicated. So to prevent that wound get infection, that silver nitrate is very good agent. 0.5% silver nitrate solutions you can apply time to time, every 4 to 5 hours you can apply just a little one film you can apply to that burn site in the deep one. And when the once that it gets uh, the scar is formed, the crust is formed. Crust, you know, that whatever that blisters get dried up, then they form the crust. It's hard keratinizing tissue, so hard tissue which prevent that underlying tissue from outside environment. But later on the crust, the cracks, and in between cracks there is open space, so that pathogens can even after you keeping your patient in the burn ward, the patient may get the infection with that within the crack. So in that case, and the or the scar is formed. Scar, you know, we already discussed in previous lecture, there is the when the circumferential burn of the second degree, third degree burn. So in the process of the healing, there is hard tissue that is called scar. Okay, so scar is very thick. So usually scar acts it's a kind of that development of scar is a kind of preventive mechanism of our defense mechanism of our body. So it gets hard, so that the pathogens didn't reach to that burn site. So it also protects. So there is very few and agents which can penetrate through scar, and if infection is travel below the scar, below the crust, then methidine acetate, it's the only agent which can act because it can absorb deeper into the scar and acts as an antimicrobial and clean that infection. So these are some agents you can use topically. Later on, when that your wounds is the crust is dried up, so if the crust is dried and it is easily removable, then you have to remove the crust, because once the crust is formed, then it's the function is over, means under the underlying skin is getting granulation, then the crust become cracked and it get elevated. So you can remove uh, the crust which are easily removable. Don't forcefully remove the crust, otherwise the patient may have lot of pain and may have the uh, hemorrhage also, because underlying vessels can be ruptured. Okay, so after that there is the two methods to heal the wound from here. There is the open method and there is a closed method. It's not very complicated to understand. That open method is here, just we leave the wound open. We time to time we remove the crust, we remove the crust, and just keep the patient in the burn ward, keep the patient in the sterilized conditions, and just apply the local applicants, that silver nitrate, silver sulfadizine. Okay, the only topical antigens applied, and leave that wound as it is, so it get epithelize itself. Okay, so this method is more popularly used in the portion of neck, face, and head. Okay, because here if we covering that, patient get very irritated, means that open method is very helpful for the treatment of that head, face, and neck burn wound. And the closed method is here we close the wound, and we cover the dressings covered with the 3-layer dressings: inner layer, middle layer, and outer layer. The inner layer should be covered with a non-adherent antiseptic based water, antiseptic with water based cream. Means whatever the material we use, that is synthetic material, and it is non-adherent, and these are soaked in the antimicrobial solutions, and these are the that whatever the cream used that are water based, so it get not dried up, so it get not hurts when we remove it. Okay, and middle layer, the ordinary sterilized cotton gauze, and third layer the cotton bandage. Okay, so here we close the wound, especially if the burn wound is present in the limbs or in the abdomen, so the closed wounds are effective, because here we cover the wound, because when the large area is raw, so when you covering the wound with antiseptic solutions, means the bandages or the dressing which is antiseptics, so you protect the wound, and that healing become little bit faster. Okay, so this is the choice of surgeon only. You can also uh, heal that wound with the open method also. Okay, so here just and you have to change these antimicrobial dressings every 3 to 4 hours, and every 3 4 hours you have to remove the dressing and keep another one. So these type of this these type of dressing are very useful in the closed methods, huh? Just like we have discussed in an Ayurvedic portion, that the Acharya Sushta has says to cover that wound with the wet with patra of that kamal and kurchi. Okay, so here he also is using that some materials which is antiseptic and soothing, and just covering the wound. So some solutions can be used, that is chlorhexidine, soframycin, nitrofurazone. These can be used with this dressing, and 5% silver nitrate cream. uh, so these are the topical agents which are used in the wound management of the burn patients. Okay, so and that part, that if you are treating the any burn wound in the limbs, so better you have managed to elevate the limb. So due to elevation with the gravitational, edema can be reduced. So when the edema is reduced, so inflammation gets subsided easily. So when the inflammation gets subsided, the healing become faster. Okay, so but if you have any infected wound, means any pus formation is there, then you must do the culture and sensitivity of the culture and sensitivity for that pus, and then you get that specific antibiotic solutions, which you can use the locally, give the injection locally at the site of burn, or just use the local along with this topical agents. If that infection goes deeper, and there is into any cavity where the pus is collected, then you must use that the surgical method to drain the cavity, to open the cavity and to drain the cavity. Okay, so these next step should be that skin grafting. Okay, so when skin grafting is very much important in the management of the second degree and third degree burn, when a large area of the skin is burned, and it is become raw. So the timing of skin grafting is very much important. Okay, when you have a very healthy granulation at the base, only at that time you can do the grafting, and that graft will be well accepted, and and the purpose of the grafting will be fulfilled only if the graft is fully accepted. If you graft the in a wound which is infected condition, or there is inflammatory conditions, in that condition, that rejection is very much common, so that the purpose of the grafting will be not fulfilled. Okay, so that when your wound when the wound it's look healthy, it's look pink, it's a very much good granulation. At that time only you take the skin graft from the other body part, from the thighs, from the back, or from the abdomen. Okay, so there is the one skin grafting knife is coming. So with this knife you can just peel out the skin. Okay, so why the skin grafting is very much important? Because skin cannot grow only alone, it must have some skin appendages. So when you take the graft from somewhere, it also carries the skin appendages along with this is that sweet gland, sebaceous gland, and hair follicles that are very much essential to adherent of the skin. So when you cover the skin, so the benefit of the grafting is that when any raw wound is there, the skin is not there. So in the process of healing, the wound gets contracted. But once the skin is there, so contraction is not happening. So the post burn contracture is that which form in the burn patient, then can be avoided by the skin grafting. And so that the efficiency of the patient after the after the treatment means whatever the function of the limb or any joint which is restricted if you not do the grafting, so that can be avoided if you do the skin graft at the correct time and it is well accepted, wound is healed properly, so that joint movement and all will be not affected, so that efficiency of the burn patient is up to full mark. So the patient can do his work very well. So and also uh, it reduces that when you cover that patient, so it reduces that water loss also from. So it that hydrate the patient means it prevents the dehydration of the patient because if the is open, so need lot so much fluid also. So these are the some beneficial effect of the skin grafting, but it is only successful when you do the graft at the correct time. Okay, and all the complete procedures should be fully aseptic. Okay, if your graft will infected, then all is gone in all will go in vain, and everything will be wasted. So next next step is the physiotherapy and rehabilitation. That is very important. Once the burn patient is that only limb or joint is get healed, then as early as possible the patient is painless, then you can start the physiotherapy and rehabilitation process. So it reduces the fibrosis, it reduces the contracture, so that scar is also the minimum. So once the physiotherapy is started, so the benefit of that physiotherapy is that patient get better movement and that very less contracture, so better movement and better function of that limb. So it's very much important in the patient of the burn as well as in the fracture patient also, the physiotherapy is very much important. So because that once you suppose the patient you have treated the burn patients, but it doesn't and you have not started physiotherapy at the correct time, so the patient is after treatment, even the burn wound is healed, but the patient is not get the benefit of that treatment because he has lost the movement of or he has lost the movement of joint, he has the lost function of that limb, so that is will be incomplete treatment. So that's why physiotherapy and rehabilitation is very much important process of the complete management of that burn wound. So these are the few complications which oftenly occurs with the thermal burn injuries. That is the curling ulcer. Curling ulcer we already discussed in a previous lecture. With that ulcer develops in the stomach due to the hypovolemia. So these are the ulcer can be prevented by the better resuscitations and to reduce the timing of the shock. Okay, and next few complications: the acute pancreatitis, acute acalculous cholecystitis. Cholecystitis means inflammation of the gallbladder. So most of the cholecystitis are the calculus cholecystitis, where the calculus is the main cause. But sometime in the burn patient without calculus, the acute cholecystitis condition may be seen. And next is the superior mesenteric syndrome. This is the kind of syndrome which oftenly seen in the burn patient. The exact etiology is not known, because the condition is that usually that the duodenum pass through the in between the uh, aorta and the splenic mesenteric artery, superior mesenteric artery. So in the burn patient, somehow it's seen that the girth or the circumference or the size of the aorta and superior mesenteric vein enlarges. So it comes. Here you can see that this is the normal duodenum, and here it is increased in size, so that duodenum is get compressed, so that it causes the it causes the uh, it causes the compression of that duodenum, so it causes the partial or complete obstruction of that duodenum, that may cause that vomiting, and may uh, means paralytic ileation, some gastric complications others happens. And other non-occlusive ischemic enterocolitis, these are the condition where the usually that due to the most of things happens only due to with the hypovolemia. Your the gut comes into that gut comes to the hypoxic, gut comes hypoxic and ischemic, so that inflammation of the inner line mucosa of the colon get inflamed, that is called enterocolitis. Okay, so due to the ischemia, later on it may develop some ulcers, and it may perforate also. And the last one, that myocardial infarction, that may happens due to the various causes, with the direct effect on that heart, myocardial tissue, or the indirect effect, or that in very much increasing the cardiac output due to the hypovolemia, the heart itself got into the ischemia and infarction. So these are the few complications which may happen in the burn, thermal burn conditions. Okay, so next we discuss the injury to the airway of the lungs. When the patient has especially no other body injuries, only the airway is injured. That can happen mostly in the blast, or some when the patient is directly exposed to very hot air, or very hot that or inhale steam. So in that condition, that physical burn happen to that the mouth, that upper respiratory tract, pharynx, and it can injure. Okay, all the patient, if they inhale very hot air, so it can damage the lower respiratory tract also. So, and if the patient is get stuck somehow in a closed room where there is a smoke, so that kind of that we discuss in Ayurveda, the Dhumopahat, when a patient is when somebody is stuck in the smoke, so many somebody had so much inhaled so much smoke, so that caused the metabolic poisoning, because we know that that smoke has that more carbon monoxide. So carbon monoxide is 10 times affinity. Carbon monoxide has 10 times affinity to join with the hemoglobin than the oxygen. So it produces the carboxy hemoglobin. So that carboxy hemoglobin blocks all the hemoglobin, so all that circulates in the whole body, and so that the whole body gets hypoxia, because tissue didn't get proper oxygens. So that's kind of that is called the metabolic poisoning. Okay, so these things can happen when the patient get injury to the airway, or somehow if the patient has injured the rib, or there is a circumferential burn of that thorax. So later on, that scar formation that restricted the rib movement, so that mechanical block of the respiration may happen in the patients. So these kind of that injuries happen in the burn patient when the respiratory tract is directly or indirectly involved in that condition. So the key of the treatment of these type of the patient is first thing to take the proper history, and so means the history is very much important. As early you know that where is your patient is stuck, means which part is injured, means what is the main cause the patient is stuck in the smoke, or because all these causes the blocking of that bronchus, and leading to cyanotic patient and hypoxic patients. Okay, so as well as early you know the main cause. Okay, so your treatment will be very much effective. So if you find the first stage is very much important, and second one, if you the patient that that airway is not clear, so intubation, that intubation is very much important. As early as you intubate the patient, you will save the life of the patient, because after the 4 5 of the injury, that bronchus, that respiratory tract swells up, so later on you will not able to intubate the patients. So as early as possible you have suspect the respiratory tract injury, burn in the patient, you must intubate the patient as early as possible. And next thing, if the patient is not doing respiration by its own, then you have to keep the patient in the ventilator supports, so the patients get the respiratory movements. And next, if the whatever the general management the burn is involved, you can do this in that resuscitation, fluid, all these things. Okay, so these are the few points for that injury of the airways and lungs in the patients. Next, the electric burn injury. So that electric burn injury are divided in the two parts. First is that high voltage, and second is the low voltage. So high voltage and low voltage, two kinds of injuries happen in the electric burn cases. So usually the low voltage injury happens in the domestic cases, means in household, when the patient gets uh, the shock, that electric shock are somehow touched in the electric wire, so it get that burn injury. It's only the local injury, means that local tissue is only damaged. Oh, okay, and if and that patient get because in household the only that AC current is supplied. So AC, it gets severe vibration in the body, so that patient gets that cardiac arrest due to the not due to the damage of the cardiac tissue, but due to that arrhythmia caused by that severe vibrations. And along with it, a patient may get that fracture in the ribs, fracture in the other body part due to the fall. Okay, so the burn injury is mostly caused by that conduction of that current in the body. Okay, so there are two point, one entry point and one exit point. When we touch entry point is the where patient touches the electricity, and that exit point is when the where the patient touches the ground. So when it complete the circles, so that burn injury occurs due to the travel of that current through the body. So the body and the damage depends on the resistance provided by the body organs. So usually our soft organs give the very less resistance, so it damage more, and the hard organs like the bone and muscles, it gives little more resistance, so it damages less. So this is the means pathophysiology of the electric burn injury. So here the AC voltage, that low voltage injury caused by the AC, and the high voltage injury caused by the DCs. So the high voltage injury most commonly occurs in the industrial cases, and this here also that damage occurs due to the travel of the high voltage of current in the body. So it damages the skin, that soft tissue and the muscles also. Okay, so these types of the here also that patient may die due to the uh, that cardiac arrest, but here the cardiac arrest not due to the arrhythmia. The cardiac arrest due to the damage of the myocardial tissue, means the heart tissue is damaged. That's why the patient heart stops. Okay, so two types of that means in both condition patient may die due to the cardiac arrest, but the pathology is different. Once where the cardiac tissue is not damaged, only the arrhythmia is caused, and in the low voltage and the high voltage, that cardiac tissue is damaged, not due to the arrhythmia. So the treatment constitute that the first step resuscitations, careful orthopedic examination very much important, because patient may have some fractures in the body, in the vertebra, in the ribs, or on the ribs, due to the fall or due to the severe vibrations. Okay, so the and next other common management of the burn is applied. The common principles are applied. If you have the burn wound, you have to debride it, open it. Okay, and that there is a severe acidosis is developed in the burn patient, so that at the time of resuscitation, you feel that patient is acidotic, then you have to give the soda sodium bicarbonate bolus, 1 or 2 ampoules in the first eye trip, so your patient respond very fastly. Okay, if that deep burn is happened due to the high voltage injury, then fasciotomy or the exploration of the muscles compartment is essential to relieve that pressure inside the inside the burn wound, so that you can save your patient for the amputation. Because if you're not doing the fasciotomy or the you're not open the compartment, so due to the high pressure, that muscles and all the nerve tissue may be damaged. Okay, so here is the burn injury by the electric, means electric burn. Next is the chemical burn. Chemical burn, basically there's two type of the chemical which causes the burn, one acid and one alkali. Okay, so alkali is burn is more common than the acid burn. There is a say 70,000 chemicals which are present, which can cause the burn injury in the industrial areas. Okay, so the acid burn and alkali burn, these are both are dangerous, and especially if they contact the eyes and the soft organs. So the treatment constitute that lavas of the with the plain water, lavas with the plain water. Okay, so you just when you have the patient of the burn, and is there patient is having the chemical burn, you see that the patient having any contact with the corrosive materials, acid or base, then you start that wash that part with the water. Okay, but there is few exception where the water should be avoided. If that when the patient which are working in the glass industries, most likely to have the that chemical burn with the hydrofluoric acid. So in that case, in benzalconium, and if the patient have the burn with the phenol, then glycerol. These are the two exception where, means you have, if the patient have burn with the hydrofluoric acid, you have to lavage or clean with the benzalconium, or if the patient burn the phenol, then you have to wash with the glycerol. Otherwise, any unknown chemical or other chemicals, you have to wash with the plain water. Why this exception are there? Because these the water gets better absorption of the hydrofluoric acid as well as the phenol, so we should avoid to absorption of the patient. That's why because once the chemical is burned, chemical causes two types of burn. One, the direct injury to the skin, and next causes the poison due to the absorption. Two, you have to reduce the both things. First, the reduce that burn by the on the skin, and second, you have to prevent the absorption of that chemical, so the patient didn't get poison due to that chemicals. So the first step should be that lavage with a plain water. this should be continued for from 30 minutes up to the 24 also. If the severe burn is there, you have to lavage the that part up to the 24 hour also, so it gets reduced the absorptions. And that second step, if you don't identify that the chemical, so try to identify that which chemical is there and how much concentration is there, so you can give the treatment accordingly. Okay, but if the chemical has the injury of the skin, just like the burn wounds, that then you have to treat it that as other wound, other burn wound, or the treated means the surgical debridement and clean the wound, and later on if required that skin grafting. That means whatever the wound management you had, this, all these apply to the chemical burns also. Okay, so this is the chemical burn. Next is the radiation burn. Radiation burn is caused due to the radiation that X-rays, all the or the radioactive rays. Well, basically, two types of injury also here happen: the local and the systemic. Local radiations should be primarily treated with a conservative treatment. If the wound is there, then the excision and the skin grafting is recommended. Okay, if the means the pain is there with the analgesic, means that the treatment is only the symptomatic. And if that patient get a systemic injury by the radiation, that's very difficult to treat. Only that the palliative treatment is advisable, and because the patient will land into the painful death, so that radioactive radiations are very much uh, dangerous. Okay, so this should be avoided. Any, and if you identify any patient has this kind of injury, then only the palliative care is the mode of the treatment, otherwise very difficult to cure the patients. Next thing, there is the some cold burns. Okay, so we just discuss in the next lecture, because the time is finished now. If you have anybody has question, you can ask.